Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hi everyone, this is Mallika Pathak from Miranda House, University of Delhi, continuing with the course on conductance for the students of BSc Honours Chemistry and BSc with Chemistry. This is Module 8, Lecture 1 of the series. The academic expert of the course is Dr. Amrita T. Sheikh, and the recording is being done under the DTH Swayam Prabha project of the MHRD, New Delhi. Now, in the previous lecture, we looked at the various concepts which can be applied to electrolytic conductance. We looked at the various terms involved while studying the electrolytic conductance. So we looked at resistance, conductance, resistivity, conductivity. We also took a look at variation of conductivity with various factors like concentration, nature and temperature, followed by an introduction to molar conductivity. Now, continuing with the same topic, we will again recapitulate what is molar conductivity. Then we will look at its variation with concentration, both for strong as well as weak electrolyte, followed by an in-depth understanding of Colrush law of independent migration of ions. Now, let's recall what is molar conductivity. Molar conductivity is defined as the conductance of a volume V of the solution containing 1 mole of electrolyte placed between two parallel electrodes which are unit distance apart and have area of cross section large enough to contain the whole volume V of the solution. Just to explain it a little further, if I take volume V of a solution, any electrolytic solution, and it has only 1 mole of the electrolyte, then if I want to measure its molar conductance, then the platinum electrodes used should be having a distance of unity between them, and their area of cross section, the plate's area of cross section, should be equal to V. That is, the A should be equal to V so that the whole volume of the solution can be accommodated between the two parallel plates. So whatever conductance that we measure for this solution which has 1 mole of the electrolyte and is placed between two parallel electrodes which are unit distance apart and have area of cross section which is equal to V, that is called as molar conductivity or molar conductance. Now the unit of molar conductivity or molar conductance is Siemens meter square mole inverse. So this is the SI unit. But the normal units that we normally use for our calculations and for our experiments is Siemens centimeter square mole inverse. Let's see how do we get there. Now, if we were to express kappa, which is conductivity, in the SI units of Siemens meter inverse and concentration in the SI units of moles per meter cube, then we would get the SI units of molar conductivity as Siemens meter square mole inverse. But the normally used units of concentration is not mole per meter cube, it is moles per liter or moles per decimeter cube. And the normally used units of kappa is not Siemens meter inverse but Siemens centimeter inverse. So if we were to take kappa in Siemens centimeter inverse and concentration in moles per liter, then I would have to convert either of these two into the other's units. So it's easier to convert concentration from moles per liter into moles per centimeter cube. So for that we will have to divide by 1000. So if I divide C by 1000 to convert it into moles per centimeter cube, the 1000 will go into the numerator and we will get kappa in Siemens centimeter inverse into 1000 upon C in moles per decimeter cube or moles per liter. This will lead to the value of lambda coming in the units of Siemens centimeter square mole inverse. So the units of lambda are either Siemens meter square mole inverse, which is the SI, or Siemens centimeter square mole inverse, which is the normally used units. Now let's study the variation of molar conductivity with concentration. Majority of the work on conductivity or conductance of electrolytic solutions was done by Kohlrausch. His real name was Friedrich Wilhelm Georg Kohlrausch, and he was a German physicist, and he worked on the conductance of electrolytic solutions. So our understanding, the initial understanding of the conductance of electrolytic solution is based on what he had worked on. So let's take a look at it. So when Kohlrausch was working with electrolytes, he saw that when he plotted the graph of lambda versus concentration, this is the kind of graph that he obtained. And what he saw was that the lambda values for weak electrolytes were low initially, whereas the values of lambda for the strong electrolytes were higher. Also, he saw that these values of lambda, when they were plotted against C, they were not linear in nature, and he wanted to study this. So we are going to talk about this, but before we do that, let's look at what is lambda. We did say that lambda is equal to kappa by C, where kappa is conductivity and C is the concentration. What is concentration? Number of moles of substance per unit volume of the solution. So number of moles of electrolyte per unit volume of the solution. But for molar conductivity, number of moles is 1. So lambda can be expressed as kappa upon C, which is C is equal to N by V. So N is 1. So kappa into V. So lambda is equal to kappa into V. So this shows that lambda depends on the values of kappa, which is conductivity, and volume of the solution. So molar conductivity depends on conductivity and volume of the solution. Now what does it tell you actually? It shows that lambda, if I were to study with concentration, then its value will depend on both these factors. Now what happens to these factors when you change the concentration? So if I dilute a solution, that is I decrease the concentration, then number of moles per unit volume decreases. We know that, and therefore kappa will decrease. Kappa will decrease, but because you are diluting the solution, volume will increase. So kappa is decreasing, volume is increasing, but volume increase is much more than kappa, so lambda will increase. So when you dilute a solution or decrease the concentration of an electrolytic solution, then lambda m increases. This is what is happening. If you interpret this graph on moving from right to left, you will see that the value of lambda is increasing when you are decreasing the concentration. Again, explaining it. When you dilute the solution, kappa decreases because number of moles of electrolyte per unit volume of the solution is decreasing. But because you are diluting, therefore the volume is increasing. So kappa decreases, volume increases, and the volume increases more than kappa decrease. Therefore lambda will increase, and therefore molar conductivity increases with decrease in concentration. So from this graph we see that when you decrease the concentration, the lambda m values are increasing because kappa did decrease, volume increased a lot. So this increase in volume compensated the decrease in kappa, and lambda m increased. So when we move from right to left, that is the concentration is decreasing, lambda m values are increasing. But when Kohlrausch realized that this graph of lambda m versus root C was not linear in nature, he plotted another graph of molar conductance versus root concentration, and now he found that for a strong electrolyte the graph was linear, but for a weak electrolyte it was not linear. In fact, he realized that the graph was linear for strong electrolyte and could be extrapolated to give you a value of molar conductance at almost zero concentration. This value of molar conductance is called as molar conductance at infinite dilution, and this is the maximum value of molar conductance and therefore called as limiting molar conductance. So limiting molar conductance or molar conductance at infinite dilution was obtained by extrapolating this linear graph of strong electrolyte to zero concentration. Now just see the variation. There is an increase, but the increase is not much. This is the lowest value at high concentration, but at the zero concentration the value is only increased to that much. So the increase is there, but the increase is very less for a strong electrolyte. Whereas for a weak electrolyte, the values at higher concentration do not change much. But as you move towards zero concentration, the value of molar conductance increases drastically. So when you are decreasing the concentration, initially the value does not change much, but at zero concentrations and closer, the value has increased quite a bit. But because this is not a linear graph, it cannot be extrapolated to zero concentration. So this graph, when he plotted Kulrosh, he found very important conclusions from this. Let's see both of these graphs individually. So just to repeat, when we plot molar conductance versus root C for strong electrolyte, we get a linear graph which can be extrapolated to zero concentration to give you the value of molar conductivity at infinite dilution. This is the maximum value of molar conductivity and therefore called as limiting molar conductivity. Now, why was the increase there? We've already discussed why is the increase there. Because when you dilute the solution, the number of ions per unit volume decreases, kappa decreases. But this decrease in kappa is very little as compared to the increase in the volume of solution. Because in case of a strong electrolytes are already dissociated in solution. So whether you take a concentrated solution or whether you take a dilute solution, the electrolyte is already going to be dissociated. The only factor that will come into being when you dilute is that the ions have moved farther apart and there is a decrease in the interionic forces of attraction. So because of that, there is slight increase in molar conductivity. So kappa decreased, volume increased, and leading to the increase in the lambda m. And if I wanted to explain this, this is because of the decrease in the interionic forces of attraction. The complete explanation for this variation was given by Debye-Huckel on Sagar theory. We are going to talk about it in later lectures. So this is about strong electrolyte. Because he found that this variation was linear in nature, Kulrosh expressed it in the form of equation, which is lambda m is equal to lambda m infinity minus a root c, which is an equation of the form of y is equal to c plus mx. So c here is lambda m infinity, and if you are plotting against root c, the slope is equal to minus a, and this is what Kulrosh did. Then Kulrosh, while studying strong electrolyte, also realized something about the weak electrolyte. He found that these graph, because it was not linear, could not be extrapolated to zero concentration, and therefore you cannot get the value of lambda m infinity for a weak electrolyte. So you have to look for a different way of getting the value of lambda m infinity for a weak electrolyte. Now, just to understand what happens in the case of weak electrolyte. In the case of weak electrolyte, when you dilute the solution, the dissociation increases, and the dissociation increases, number of ions are increasing, so lambda m is increasing, and this increase is so steep at zero concentration that you see such kind of graph. Now just see, because this is not a linear graph, again I am repeating, it cannot be extrapolated to zero concentration. So if I want to find out the value of lambda m infinity, we have to use the Kulrosh law of independent migration of ions. The explanation for this variation of molar conductivity with dilation for weak electrolyte was given by Arrhenius' theory of electrolytic dissociation, and Ostwald's dilution law, which we are going to study later. But repeating, for the strong electrolyte and for the weak electrolyte, lambda m is increasing. This increase is less for strong, very large for weak electrolyte. In the case of both, volume has increased when you are decreasing the concentration. Kappa is decreased. This decrease in kappa has been overly compensated by the volume. In the case of strong electrolyte, the explanation is given by Debye-Huckel-Onsager theory. For the weak electrolyte, the explanation is given by Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. Now let's look at the values of molar conductivity at infinite dilution for some of the electrolytes in water at 298 Kelvin. These are the values. Just see the values. The values are near to each other. Sodium nitrate 121, potassium nitrate 144, lithium nitrate 110, KCl 149, NaCl 126, LiCl 115, whereas for hydrochloric acid HCl it is 426. This value is very, very high as compared to the other value. Now just see, because HCl and NaCl have same Cl ions, or LiCl have the same Cl ions, the difference is probably due to the cations only. And it is due to the cations. We are going to talk about this variation in detail later on. But this variation is because of the presence of H plus ions, which show something different as compared to other cations. Now let's look at Kohlrausch law of independent migration of ions. We've just said that the Kohlrausch law of independent migration of ions is used to find out the value of lambda m infinity for a weak electrolyte. And let's see what and how do we get it. So Kohlrausch, we've already said, gave this graph. This graph for both strong and weak electrolyte of lambda m versus root C. For the strong electrolyte, this value was linear and increases slowly with dilution, and this was expressed in the form of lambda m is equal to lambda m infinity minus a root C, where lambda m infinity is the limiting value of lambda m at infinite dilution, or called as limiting molar conductivity or molar conductivity at infinite dilution. Now let's look at some of the values of molar conductivity at infinite dilution for some of the electrolytes, KCl, NaCl, KNO3 and NaNO3. The values come out to be same, 23.4, 23.1. The difference in the lambda infinity of the two electrolytes containing the same cation or anion is the same. This same difference in lambda m infinity led Kohlrausch to postulate that the molar conductivity at infinite dilution can be broken down into contribution by the two ions, the cation and the anion. So lambda m infinity of an electrolyte is the sum of the lambda infinity of the cation plus lambda infinity of the anion. This symbol represents for cation and anion, and this symbol represents for the electrolyte. Now, how do we explain this? So we've just said that the lambda infinity of the electrolyte can be written as an algebraic sum of the lambda infinity of the cation and the anion. So if I were to write the difference between lambda m infinity KCl minus lambda infinity NaCl as an algebraic expression containing KCl and NaCl, then that can be written as lambda infinity K plus lambda infinity Cl minus lambda infinity Na plus minus lambda infinity Cl minus, which will give you lambda infinity K plus minus lambda infinity Na plus. Similarly, if I were to write the difference between lambda infinity KNO3 and lambda infinity NaNO3, I would get lambda infinity K plus lambda infinity NO3 minus lambda infinity Na plus minus lambda infinity NO3 minus, which will lead to lambda infinity K plus minus lambda infinity Na plus. So in both the differences, you see that the value that you finally get is actually the difference between the lambda infinity K plus minus lambda infinity Na plus. So there is a definite contribution being made by K plus and Na plus to both these electrolytes, whether in the first case or in the second case. This led Kohlrausch to postulate the law of independent migration of ions. So Kohlrausch law of independent migration of ions states that that at infinite dilution, where the dissociation for all the electrolytes is complete and where all the interionic effects disappear, each ion migrates independently of its co-ion and contributes to the total molar conductivity of an electrolyte. A definite share which depends only on its nature and not at all on the ion with which it is associated. That means lambda m infinity is equal to lambda plus infinity plus lambda minus infinity. This is for 1:1 electrolyte. But if we were to have 1:2 electrolyte or 2:1 electrolyte, for example, CaCl2, you have 1 calcium and 2 chloride ions. Then in that case, lambda m infinity can be written as lambda plus infinity of calcium 2 into lambda infinity of Cl minus, because there are 2 Cl minus. So nu plus and nu minus represent the number of ions which are generated from 1 mole of the electrolyte. So lambda m infinity at infinite dilution is made up of the independent contributions from the cationic and the anionic species. Now, how do we use this? We can use this to determine the value of limiting molar conductivity for a weak electrolyte. Our weak electrolyte here is acetic acid, and I want to find out its value of limiting molar conductivity. That is the molar conductivity at infinite dilution. For finding the value of lambda infinity of HAC, I need the value of lambda H plus and lambda AC minus infinity. So I will take 2 electrolytes which will give me the values of lambda infinity H plus, lambda infinity AC minus. So we will take HCl and sodium acetate, because they both will give me the value of H plus and acetate ion. But with these I am also getting 2 extra ions. I am getting Cl minus ions and Na plus ion. So I will subtract the value of lambda infinity of NaCl. These values we will take for HCl and sodium acetate, we will add them, and then we will subtract the value of lambda infinity of NaCl. I will get the value of lambda m infinity of acetic acid. So this is just simple manipulation of algebraic expression in terms of electrolytes. Let's look at propionic acid. I want the value of lambda m infinity of propionic acid. So the numerical says that we are given the molar conductance values of NaCl, HCl, sodium propanate at infinite dilution as 126.45, 426.16 and 91 ohms inverse, centimeter square, moles inverse respectively. I am to find out the molar conductance values of infinity for propionic acid. How do we go about it? Very simple. Lambda m infinity of propionic acid will require that I take the values of lambda m infinity of propionate ion and H plus ions. So I will take the values of HCl, lambda m infinity HCl and lambda m infinity sodium propionate. I will subtract the value of lambda m infinity of NaCl. This is simply manipulation of numbers and I get the value of lambda m infinity of propionic acid. So this way, by just using the values of lambda m infinity of strong electrolytes which are given to us, I can find out the lambda m infinity of the weak electrolytes. So just let's say any weak electrolyte you want to find out the value of molar conductivity at infinite dilution, take the molar conductivity at infinite dilution values of the strong electrolyte, just manipulate it like simple mathematical expression and you will get the molar conductivity at infinite dilution for the weak electrolyte. So in today's lecture we looked at what is molar conductivity and its variation with concentration. We looked at individual themes of strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte. We looked at their explanation, followed by a in-depth look at the Kohlrausch law of independent migration of ions and how it can be applied to get the value of molar conductivity at infinite dilution for the weak electrolyte using the lambda m infinity values of the strong electrolyte. So with this we wind up today's lecture. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe, Take care of your family. Bye-bye.